We started this conversation in May about mental health, and May was Mental Health Awareness Month. We're in June, and June is Men Health Month. So today I'm so excited. I have a guest I've known for close to 16 years, and I'll let her introduce herself, then we can have the discussion.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much, Geraldine, for inviting me to this space. My name is Mbelenga. I am a clinical psychologist and a nutritionist, working for an organization called Yash Wellness Center, where we are focused on mental health and nutrition and how these two themes can help us to live our best possible lives.
Yeah. Okay. Emily, we recall we met in the nutrition field.
Yeah, we did.
And now you wear double lenses. Maybe just share with us, how has it been? And how did you get yourself in that space?
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Have I talked about this formally before? Probably not. So I have always been told that I'm a good listener, way from when I was a child. So mental health, psychology is a listening field, so it felt like just the right thing for me to do. However, at a personal level, so of course I studied nutrition, I've been working at it, but at a personal level, I really understand the impact of mental health on families because I have two brothers, twins, who were diagnosed with early onset schizophrenia many years ago. I was about 7, 8. And I remember, I grew up in the village. I remember how the society would look at us. Sometimes you'd go to church, and people don't want to sit at you. Or, when people say, ule, brother ko ile mwendazimu, So because of that, I wanted to make a difference. So mental health is a passion for me because I truly understand what stigma does to families and how, apart from the person suffering, even the family themselves also suffer. Yeah, so that's why nutrition and mental health.
Wow, yeah, that's interesting. Yeah. You've talked about something which has caught my attention. You're saying wendawazimu.
Yes.
And that's what comes to mind is stigma.
Yes.
And I would actually share a story because I had a diagnosis of workplace depression, and I'm sure many of us followers have had that experience. How are you been able to handle the stigma around with your brothers?
Okay. So after, at my own personal level, no, before I got here, I would think actually of my mother. She, she tried everything. And that's the thing actually for most of us. Before we see Emily or any other mental health person, you've tried church, you've tried traditional healers, you've even prayed it away. So there's usually a lot of stigma, external and internal as well.
Yeah.
How you overcome it, for me at a personal level has been the accepting that my brothers were ill, but they've gone on to receive treatment, so they're okay. Yeah. But they have to be on lifelong medication. So accepting that this is an illness like any other, and that's the thing actually, Geraldine, like there's no difference between schizophrenia, depression, and hypertension or diabetes. But that stigma makes it feel like it is different, while it's not. And there is help. I don't know whether you saw recently someone who was rescued. I think it was trending on social media. He had even done his PhD, and
I saw.
You saw it, yeah? And when you look at him, it's like what a waste you get. But now that he's been rescued, he's been taken to mother, I'm sure it will be a turnaround for his family. So I'd say awareness and knowing that there is treatment, there is help, is what turned it around for me. And then wanting to also make a difference, because even when I sit with my clients, obviously I don't bring that. It's the space is not mine, it's theirs. Yeah. But I understand where they're coming from.
Yeah, I can relate with that.
Yeah.
Let's talk about how easy or is it difficult for people with mental health to get access to services in Kenya?
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Not easy. Yeah. We've talked, I will sound like we are belaboring the point, but stigma is the number one barrier. When you're being labeled mwendazimu, you do not want to come out. Obviously, you don't want to say, I am depressed, I'm anxious, or I need help. So that already is a barrier. Then number 2 is cost. On average, therapy costs about, a good therapy, say 4,000, 5,000, 6, up to some even 10,000 shillings.
Yeah.
So that can be a lot. Not all insurance cover mental health.
Yes.
So people have to pay out of pocket. So that's a barrier. Look at our public system. Wow, sometimes I've had people talking to me when I'm participating in just normal coalition meetings. Sometimes you have gone there, but there's no medication. So there's the issue of drugs are not available. So that is also access issue, affects access. Then I think a majority of psychiatrists and psychologists probably are concentrated here in Nairobi.
Sure.
Yeah, if we think about, like if I think about my home,
Yeah.
do I even know a psychologist who is practicing in the village in Taita? I don't know. I don't even know one. So there's, when you think about our rural areas, the issue becomes even more complicated. Yeah. So I'd say those 3 issues, yes.
I'll just share. Remember I talked about I had workplace depression.
Yes.
And luckily my employer had a very good insurance policy. So I was able to access good quality healthcare services. But then what can we do, in your opinion? What do you think we can do, all of us collectively? I would not see the government, just to ensure that there's improvement. Yeah.
I think number 1 thing is like what you're doing, and thanks for this space just to talk about mental health. I feel that when we talk more, we in a way help to contribute this to reduce the stigma, because we now no longer see mental ill health, but we see Geraldine, we see Emily, we see Emily's brothers, and that in the end will humanize it. I know because in nutrition you talk a lot about human-centered design. So when we start thinking more about the people behind it, that will make a difference. And now globally there's a lot of focus on lived experience. I think now if you're doing anything on mental health, you cannot do it without people who have actually lived through the actual anxiety, actual depression. Because sometimes when you've not really experienced the illness, sometimes it's easy to talk down at people, even when you are an expert. So those 2. For government has done quite a bit. We have I don't know if you know, we have the Amended Mental Health Act 2022, which also talks about patient rights and all these things. However, I don't know whether many people don't know even about it, Geraldine. That's the question. So what kind of services are being offered at the health facility? Majority of us go to government places. So those would help. I'm curious, you said your organization covered. It had a cover for
mental health, yes.
I'm curious, were people actually going? Because sometimes it's available, but nobody, again, the stigma, wants to be seen as seeking help for mental health.
Actually, if I recall, I think I was the first person to use those services.
Yeah.
And now let me just share this from a lived experience.
Yes.
It got to a point that even my people could not understand that I am unwell. Because I think we're used to malaria, diabetes. So I had to take the initiative to explain to them what exactly am I suffering from. Yeah. But I would say it took time for them to understand. And then again, as you're talking about stigma, I remember my therapist telling me, Geraldine, you're not depression. Because for me, I was like, I am the depression.
Yes.
So she had to work with me for me to understand that depression is just something else, just like malaria. And each time you'd go to overcome.
Yes, overcome it.
Yes.
It's true. And you said actually something that I also see, with my clients or with other people. Sometimes we can become the label of the diagnosis. While diagnosis is good, it helps you to understand what's happening. But I really like what, your therapist told you, that you're not the depression. And also that it's an illness, the ones that we deal with. I really sometimes wonder whether it's our background, our cultures and our beliefs, because another thing actually that affects access to mental health is the belief that nimerogwa.
Yes.
Ni demonic
Yes.
possession, let's go to. So we don't actually see it as an illness. You see, we first of all see it as badai, uchawi, and all these things and demonic possession. So by the time we are coming for help, we're going to Madare, we're seeing Emily, we have gone through so much suffering, and I feel that it's only this kind of conversations and awareness that can help.
Sure, I agree. Now, before we go to about the policy and the act, just touch base on workplace mental health.
Okay.
Because I'm sure we had a catch up before on what exactly you're doing on that space.
Yes. Okay. So yes, apart from individual clients, I do also have workplace mental health programs, which for me, because I'm a nutritionist, I integrate nutrition in there. So what I've found, most organizations, it's such a hard space to impact because of there's the way that as human beings we feel like I've been doing it that way. So why change the game? So most of the workplace program are usually provided under their insurance cover. And from feedback, because I've been trying to, get feedback from organization, it just covers awareness. It doesn't go deeper than that. But unfortunately, I feel that many organizations or feel that is working, they're not willing to try much more. So at the moment, mostly it takes place, it's awareness like workshops. So they might bring a mental health expert to talk about stress, talk about burnout. And most of the time, it's also linked to this team building thing we talked about. So you see, Geraldine, that's a one-off. Organizations do team building, I think, Q4 of the year. So what about the other 3 quarters? In my opinion, as you've asked, I think we should also think about leadership training. How is, if you're my boss, how are you creating an environment for my mental health? I know there's some organizations, I've worked for one before that had a mental health leave. Like you could take 2.5 days every month. Imagine.
Okay.
For your mental health, and you didn't have to explain. So I feel at organization level, it needs to be more systemic. The workshop thing, while good to raise awareness, it doesn't, if I'm still pinging you and texting you and emailing you on Sunday, Geraldine, and I want you to respond, and when you push back and say, this is my time for rest, and then on Monday I'm looking at you with those eyes of, you're a bad employee, I can bring many Emilys to talk about mental health, but I'm not going to change anything, So I feel like it needs to be more systemic, including leadership, and let's not just do it at Q4. As part of
should be continuous, not a one-off thing.
Not a one-off.
Good.
thing.
Now, you mentioned something about the Mental Health Act. Please just talk more about it. Because I'll tell you, like me, I came across it last year, simply because I had the opportunity to do a fellowship, a mental health fellowship. It was an eye-opener, and actually that was what triggered this conversation. So maybe just talk more about the Mental Health Act. What does it, benefit the ordinary mwananchi? Yes.
Okay. Actually, the Mental Health Act benefits the ordinary mwananchi because it has a big thing for me that I would say for people is your rights as a person, even if you are suffering from mental illness. I think, Geraldine, you might have seen even in media or know how people, especially with severe mental health illnesses, like especially when it affects their cognition or schizophrenia and the rest. Sometimes the families bind, tie them and seclude them, away, and you don't even have access to treatment. So one huge thing I would say from the Mental Health Act for users is the fact that you have a right, and you have a right, and like a right to health like everybody as per our constitution, and you have a right to dignity. Because somehow the thing about mental health is that you can lose your dignity in the sense of even how people treat you, from how you're not even supposed to be forced to receive treatment. Yeah, like you have a right actually as a client, and your rights and your dignity as a human being are not taken away simply because you have a mental illness. So I'd say that's the biggest, I wish many people know, that they don't have to experience this illness without their dignity with them. Yeah.
I agree.
I'm curious, you said you, sorry to ask the question, but you first came across it when?
Actually last year.
Yeah. Oh, I remember the training that you did. What was your reaction in terms of going, oh my God, there's this amazing act and people don't know it?
That's a good question. For me, it was an eye-opener. Because once sitting in class and learning about mental health, I was like, what have I been doing all these years? How many of us have access to whatever I'm learning? Because it was a 2-week fellowship. So for me, it was an eye-opener. And then getting to understand the link between nutrition and mental health, which you're going to talk about later. I think my voice needs to be added more out there.
Absolutely.
Of which I've been sharing my experience with Irene stories on LinkedIn. So please just visit my LinkedIn to catch up with that. So and that's why you're having this discussion today.
Absolutely.
Because we need to amplify the voice.
Yeah, we really need to amplify the voice. And I love Irene's stories. I always read them. And in a way, really, we need to amplify. As you say, mental health is at the center of our work in nutrition. Anything you can think of, even the programs that we do, economic, speaking of the Mental Health Act, untreated depression, for example, it costs our economy a lot of money. Speaking of workplace, when your staff are depressed or just, they're stressed, they're burnt out, they're not in a conducive environment, they can be there, but not really present in. So you see, workplaces don't really think about it. They don't think the cost of even absent days. As you know, you have shared your personal story. When you're not well, honestly, generally, then you can't work. You can't really work optimally. So mental health is at the center of everything that we do.
And actually to support that, there was a mental health task force that actually said that mental health accounts for 13% of the total disease burden in Kenya.
That's huge.
That's huge.
But you see, it's not in our public... it's not in our public eye. Like when you think about even, of course, the health budgets, as nutritionists, we know this, it's already not enough. But within the mental health budget is like it's less than 1%. So imagine 13% disease burden. That means if we really invested in it, we can move the needle in our health. But we don't. We don't as much as we should.
And that brings there's something I'm very passionate about. Men and mental health. I once sat through a conversation where a father told the son, mwanaume hafai kulia. Just talk through that.
Okay. Yes, actually June is a mental health month, as you had said. And one of the things, even for me, as an organization, we are doing is a digital awareness campaign and giving men the mic to actually talk about their mental health. So speaking of like a child being told to mwanaume hafai kulia. When we think about the mental health of men, we expect it to be good miraculously when they're adults. Right? We want them now when they're husbands and partners, we want them to be emotionally available. We want them to say when, they're depressed. But look at where we start. We tell boys don't cry. We tell them, they shouldn't show their emotions. And actually, Geraldine, I don't know if you've noticed how, as a society, really, how we console a little girl and how we console a little boy is very different. We can let the little girl cry most of the time without minimizing. You see, like the story you are sharing, without minimizing their emotion. But for the men, we tell them don't cry. So how then do we expect them to learn emotional regulations? They will know they should bottle up, right?
Yeah.
Because if they cry, men don't cry. So first of all, we make it such that this showing tears is like a weakness in a way. It's like, you are not a man. Why are you crying? And I like this, I don't know, we talked about it offline, A Man Must Cry
by
Mental
James,
Health by James Nyabera.
Yeah.
Because it's really been talking about why men need to cry.
Yeah.
And it's like really expressing their emotions. Because when, as human beings, we'll experience a lot of things in this life, a lot of pain. And one of the ways that we process our emotions is crying. So yeah, men should cry, but I don't think culturally we allow that. And also, just to put you on the spot, Geraldine, and for me, when say you're like you're in a relationship or you're married, like with your partner, how would you perceive them if they cry? Just at a personal level.
Wow. I think before the fellowship,
Yes.
I would have reacted the way society reacts.
Right. It's like,
Yeah. But today, actually, I have a nephew. I always tell him, if you feel like crying, just cry.
just cry. Yeah, please keep telling
And know
him
that I am here to listen. So today, I'll look at it very differently.
Yes.
Yeah.
From how. So, and that's
Yes.
why we need to have these conversations. And I'm really glad to hear, because majority of the people, as you're saying before, this awareness, they'll be like higher. Even the way some of the people who have been sharing their voices, they say they want to speak out and say they're struggling, but they don't want to be labeled as weak. Because there's this thing now, from the story when you're sharing, that we see men showing their emotions somehow as some kind of weakness, which it is not. Honestly, as a therapist, I would say that it takes courage. In fact, it is braver to be vulnerable than it is to be stoic. It's harder to actually say, I need help, I am struggling, than it is to pretend to be okay when you're not.
Yeah. I think our next guest should be James. We need to have this
I think
conversation
so.
further.
Yeah, I absolutely think so.
Now, let's dwell on much on your world.
Yes.
You know, where you wear two lenses. Is there any moment that you've had a client who walked in and you had to wear the two caps at the same time?
Okay.
Maybe you could share with us.
All right. Oh, I like that question. In fact, interestingly, of course, maintaining their privacy. The first time I got into that awareness, oh wow, I should continue to walk these two worlds. It was someone who found me on LinkedIn, and they were looking for me because they saw that I'm a nutritionist and I'm a clinical psychologist. Yeah. So they are living with a chronic mental health illness, bipolar actually. And they were looking at how diet can play a role in their well-being. So yes, they were seeing, and they still are seeing a psychiatrist, they are seeing a psychologist, but then they were starting to think, what about food? How can I think about even what I eat, and how can it help in terms of my well-being? Of course, not to say that food would cure bipolar, but that nutrition also plays a role in mental health. Yeah. So that was the first time. So thinking about the psychological concepts, obviously, mind, it's a lot to do with mind over body, CBT, likely putting it, but also thinking about their own nutrition. So yeah, that was the first one that worked on the two. The other is around food systems. With climate change, people are experiencing climate anxiety, eco-anxiety and all these things. So I feel like now even our work on food system cannot be silent on mental health.
Yeah, without the mental health discussion.
No, not at all. Yeah. So those are the two lenses so far. I work that have kind of like a very distinct way.
Okay.
Yeah, for the two.
Now, before we dwell deeper into nutrition and mental health, just for the sake of that follower who does not know the difference between a psychiatrist and a psychologist.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And so psychiatrists are trained doctors. They start, as general doctors, and then they specialize in psychiatry. So in Kenya, they are the ones who will give you medication. Like there's some of these mental health illnesses like depression, schizophrenia that I mentioned before, PTSD, that need medication. So they will give you medication and they will also talk to you, but theirs is more like treatment medical. Psychologists, on the other hand, like myself, focus more on talk therapy. There are different approaches that you can take. There is CBT, there is behavioral therapy, interpersonal therapy, a lot of them. So psychologists will focus on talk therapy to heal. And even within psychology, Geraldine, we have clinical psychologists like me, counseling psychologists, medical psychologists, there are many. But that's the distinction. Psychiatrists are medical doctors who have specialized in mental health. So they, and in Kenya, they're the ones who can prescribe medication. Psychologists can't. I know in some other countries, clinical psychologists can prescribe, but not in our country.
Okay.
Yes.
Good. Now let's talk about, I know you and I can be very technical. So we need to simplify this.
Okay.
So let's talk about the food-mood connection.
Yes.
Because I recall through my therapy sessions, at some point I realized that my weight issues were related to my mental health.
Yes.
So now in simple language that our ordinary wananchi or wanjiko will understand.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
So just talk through the gut. How does it talk to the brain? What is the connection?
Okay.
Yes.
I don't know whether you have said or I have said also, like, I'm listening to my gut or I'm following my gut, you know. And we used to look at it as a figure msemo too, like as a figure of speech. But actually recent researchers are showing us now, like, our gut is kind of like a second brain, if I can use that word. There's, of course, our brain that controls most of our processes. Then our gut health. Imagine after all these years, so it matters what we put into our bodies, because we have good bacteria, bad bacteria, and it does influence the mood. And before, so that I don't go into all the technical, you're saying something about even like someone's weight and how, you know, eating, sometimes when we are going through struggles, like even the link between mental health and nutrition, we get into, you know, sometimes we are looking for a crutch. Let me call it a crutch. Something that is, it's kind of, we don't really deal with the issue. So we are trying to navigate it from far and we hold on to a crutch. One of the crutches that we hold is food. You know? So now when we're holding food as a crutch, we are no longer eating for our, like, well-being, what we need, what is adequate. So we might either overeat or undereat it too. And then also in terms of now, like, gut health, let me give an example of the irritable bowel syndrome, which is a disease of the gut, like in nutrition. Do you know, recent studies, I was so surprised last year to find out now, when this was the connection between mental health and nutrition was coming much more. For a long time, people were, a lot of the clients with IBS would be having depression and anxiety. And for a long time, people thought it was the disease in itself that is causing. And research is actually showing that it's their gut health, like having this bacteria that's not, a lot of the not good bacteria, that is actually causing the anxiety and depression. So the anxiety and depression is even standalone to the disease.
And there's something you've said which has triggered a thought. In our curriculum, in our schools, do we have any module on mental health and nutrition?
I don't know whether we need to ask your young viewers, who are studying nutrition. Our time, definitely not.
It wasn't there?
No, it wasn't there. Even as we practice in nutrition, Geraldine, you are, let me call you an anomaly, not in a bad way, because you took time to do that fellowship.
Yes, I did,
Yeah, but I don't think in our policy work or even in our nutrition, do we really talk about mental health? No, we don't. Yet there is a huge, there's a huge link. But I don't think we learned. So unless on-job learning like yours or me who went to specialize on mental health, I don't think we
And you must have an interest for you to
to get into
yeah,
it.
to get into it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think it should actually be part of
Yeah, it
that.
should be. It
Yeah,
should be. It should be.
Mm.
Now, when you talk about the plate, there are a few nutrients that keep up coming up. Maybe you could just talk about that, just on a general perspective, because I know in clinical nutrition you need to individualize care,
Yes.
but you can just like on a broader perspective.
On a broader perspective.
Yeah.
Okay, so in terms of, let me think back to my client, the one I was telling you, who made me realize that these, see, like this, it's what do we call them in nutrition? Micronutrients.
Micronutrients and macro.
Yes, and macro. Some of the micronutrients, especially essential minerals, they actually play a role. In fact, on the flip side, do you know that when we think about now, like heavy metals, for example, heavy metals and things like lead poisoning, you know, such things in terms of when food is unadulterated, because I feel like we can't talk about the plate without talking about food safety somehow. So when food is unadulterated, I've been seeing also some research talking about the link with the high increase in terms of autism. As having a link, yes. So anyway, in terms of like good things, it's micronutrients come a lot more as playing a role in terms of gut health and in terms of regulation of mood. For my client who it was about bipolar, it was a lot to do with processed sugars, by the way, that they were because of the same way in terms of digestion, in the same way in terms of how processed sugars come into, how do I put it? Like processed sugars, the process of digestion, how they get into our blood compared to the like the dumas, compared to the
high glycemic and low
high glycemic and low glycemic foods. Yes, that also was an issue for them. So as you're saying, it should be more personalized.
Yeah.
It should be more personalized. And also I would say the good thing with awareness like we're doing is a double-edged sword. Sometimes some of the things that we read on social media may not necessarily be, you see, they may not be that solution we think, oh my God, I've found. So work with a nutritionist in this case, someone who is actually practicing who can advise. And I don't know why, apart from you, Geraldine, you're the one person who I've seen in our field is talking a lot about nutrition. Many of the people who are speaking much more are not trained nutritionists like you, I'm sorry to say. So if you're out there and you need to get credible information, it really matters who is telling you. It really, really matters, because sometimes some of the things you read about, they're not necessarily how they're being marketed as a solution to your problem.
Yeah, I've actually mentioned about people need to get critical information. And I was just laying emphasis that we have the Kenya Nutrition and Dietetics Institution that licenses nutritionists. So I would encourage our viewers and our followers, please ensure that you get nutrition counseling from somebody who's accredited. Because I know out there we have the fear-based marketing.
Yes.
And not shaming anyone, but we have the wellness coaches. They're quite a number. So I would encourage young nutritionists, even upcoming nutritionists, we need to hear your voice. I always keep on telling them, we need to hear their voice. Absolutely. You can just start as just maybe just one LinkedIn article or even a TikTok video. Yeah, because we need more voices out there. We need
more voices out there. And I thought that was important for us to talk about truly, because even as we talk about like gut health, nutrition, while yes, all this research is pointing at the individual level, it has to be personalized, as you had said. Yes, there would be like key issues that are applicable, but we need to look at your lifestyle. We need to look, especially when you think about mental health, do you have an underlying mental health condition? Do you have dietary restrictions, for example, which for you to be able to actually implement that meal plan, it needs to suit your lifestyle. Otherwise, it will be, you'll leave the office and not go and do anything like that at all.
I agree. So I'm actually running a smart food campaign where you're promoting consumption of indigenous foods. Maybe you can talk about, fermented and traditional foods. Where do they lie in there? the mood and the gut, that connection.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, I like actually, well done with your you said smart food
campaign.
campaign.
Yeah.
Well done on it. We really need to go back to our indigenous food. There's so much good, as you're saying, like the fermented food. There was a time I was doing some work for, it was on workforce nutrition for Ministry of Health, and as we were developing the guideline, we were thinking about how our eating patterns have changed.
Yeah.
Our eating patterns have changed.
Yeah.
We now have a more preference for sweet. Collectively, not at an individual level, but we want more of the sweet palate than the bitter palate. Yeah, think about it, the ice creams, and like we are tending towards sweet than bitter. The fermented foods, the dark green vegetables that were. So when you look at it from, again, the gut, when you look at it from the past, like, we carry, there's something in mental health we call epigenetics.
Okay.
Epigenetics, okay, let me not get too technical, but epigenetics is like, we carry, you see, like even depression, anxiety, trauma, we can carry it in the generation. So someone can manifest symptoms of trauma even when they didn't get it. So back to the food, over time when our parents and their parents and their parents' parents were eating these indigenous more, you see, it means what we are currently eating is not aligned to, it's not what is in our genetic makeup in a way. So it's going to cause us harm. But directly, these foods like fermented foods and more indigenous foods, how they play a role in that gut health and mood thing is because of the, again, I talked about that good bacteria. The kind of their effect on our tummies is different from like when we eat these more highly processed foods.
Yeah.
That is actually how they play around, yes. Are you promoting more of are you telling us, Geraldine, to start taking the, like what my grandmother used to make some, I don't know what to call it, some fermented, it used to be kept actually for like a week before it could be. Are you telling us we should be drinking more of that?
Yeah, we should go back to the basics.
I agree with you.
And I'm leading by example. Yes. I was sharing with somebody that I have struggled with managu, sukuma wiki. But today, I'm that
number one champion. Yeah.
Yes.
So yes, in terms of that, especially from that epigenetics, like for mental health, that link and nutrition, our bodies carry that thing of our body remembers. It's not just in a negative way like trauma, but it's even in terms of good foods, like foods that our genetics, our history, we've been, so they're good for us.
Okay, you mentioned there's a shift in terms of our palate. We are more inclined to sweet things as opposed to the sour or savory foods. And then you mentioned that you were part of a policy you're making. Maybe you could talk more about that.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Actually, it was like a regular nutrition work. It was talking about workforce nutrition, actually.
Yeah.
And it was, the discussions were around why is it, like what can nutritionists or what can the government do more to regulate our issues with like salt intake, sugar intake. That was the conversation. And so someone was saying that sometimes why policy, I suppose, it's not just policy, but it's also what does the user, us, what are we asking for? And so that's when the conversation came, like sometimes even, yes, the government does want to reduce these things, but the market complains. So our palate, like collectively, we are preferring more sweet things. And but look at our shelves, most of our things they have sugar, no? And I don't mean even in terms of just demonize, but in terms of the palate. Yeah. I know, Geraldine, I'm curious, just this, as we are talking, you have previously talked about meeting people where they are, even in terms of like their food, food habit.
Yeah.
So how do we, it's a tight line, I feel.
Yeah.
It's a tight line. On the one hand, we have public health standards that we know are good for the people.
Yeah.
But I am here. How do we get health? It's also a question even for me at my own level. Yeah, I'm curious from, because I've seen you write and talk a little bit about
Yes, I've actually talked about it. And from where I see it, I feel the gap that we have as nutritionists is we have very good policies in Kenya. Very good policies.
Yes.
But people need to understand that a policy isn't at a population level.
Yes.
Absolutely. So at individual level, that's where the difference comes in.
Yeah.
So it's upon us and nutritionists to be able to translate that policy into the actual plate.
True.
You know.
Yeah, and you asked that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because for example, you have a policy that says minimize salt intake. Just an example.
Yeah.
And then you have somebody who has been eating foods rich in high in salt all along. You know, you can't just tell them just stop. You know,
it will not
be sustainable. So you have to work with that person gradually.
Yes.
So I feel that is where there's a disconnect of how do we translate our policies into the actual plate.
Actually, and I like you said that it reminded me of our conversation earlier when we were talking about even the Mental Health Act. And I liked your question, like, what's the one thing people like the community need to know or they can benefit from? It doesn't matter that we have an amended Mental Health Act or mental health policy or any nutrition policy for that matter. What matters, as you're saying, is when I come to you, Geraldine, or you come to you, I don't care now about population level. I want to be helped as an individual. And I think, that's what we need to do more. Even the government, in terms of how they can support more the practitioners, to translate this.
Sure. Now, allow me to take you back a bit. Now, just for us to emphasize on lived experience.
Yes.
So from your practice, maintaining confidentiality. Just share with us what are the foods you recommend quite often.
Okay.
Okay.
Let me look back. At an individual level, actually, I would say even for me, it's more personalized. Like for me, especially combining now with my other hat as a clinical psychologist, is looking at the where the person is now, first of all. So if it's someone who has an underlying mental health disorder, some of them could be taking medication. Sometimes some medication, there are some foods that could be contraindicated. So that is important in terms of their well-being, what medication they're taking, also what challenges that they're having. Like some people say who have depression could be on the other side where they're overeating. Because one of the things with depression is either overeating or undereating, oversleeping or less. So it also depends. So I would say a lot would have to do with their lifestyle and where they are. Now we can be able to come up with a plan for them. So I can't say one size fits all. In that sense. Yes.
And I'm happy that you brought that.
Okay.
One size doesn't fit all.
No, it doesn't fit all. Even sometimes, let's say for me as a therapist, I like and prefer cognitive behavioral therapy because truly it's powerful to see when someone changes their thoughts and beliefs about something, how it can transform their life. But there's some clients who prefer something more experiential. There are some who it's more of like talking, interpersonal therapy. So you are weaving a thread that you don't know where it's going. It seems like to the person, but then the patterns start emerging. So not one size fits all, honestly. Even in terms of like approach, you really need to meet your client where they are. And I would actually tell you, Geraldine, to know for mental health, the biggest success is not even whether the therapist is using CBT or psychodynamics therapy or whatever. It's therapeutic alliance. How hard, how safe is that space for you as a client?
Okay.
And it's the same even also for nutrition, honestly.
I'm listening to you, and what is coming to my mind is behavior change communication.
Yes.
Yes.
You see how this mental health and nutrition really fits.
Now, we can't end without talking about myths.
Yes. Oh, yes.
And allow me to jog your mind.
Okay.
Maybe just share with us one biggest myth that people believe about the link between food and mental health.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. That has also really jogged my memory, my mind, because in nutrition there are a lot of facts, honestly, and myths, as you have called them. Let's use the word myths.
Yes.
So the one that's most of used is this thing that, like if you eat clean or if you do a certain diet, if you do X, if you go into this detox for
a number of days,
yes, all your diseases, all your issues you will miraculously lose weight, you will miraculously heal from anything that is plaguing you. Of course, that is not true. There are many things. Even first of all, there's no miracle diet. Actually, Geraldine, as you know, as being a practitioner, it's a journey. We forget that we are here now after many years of certain behavior. And so even change is not just the eating, that clean eating. It's also not just the action, but the behavior. Yeah, what has been leading you to that moment. So I would say that. And then it really misconstrues biology as we understand it. Because as nutritionists, we know the role the liver, the kidneys play in terms of that detoxification, which is never mentioned. It's never mentioned in this thing. So I would say, which reminds me, Geraldine, not to say why people really need to talk to licensed professionals.
Yes.
Truly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Maybe I should invite KNDI on this platform.
Yes, please.
Talk about
I would love, and please ask them a question for me, how they are helping us as practitioners in the field when you post them. I'll be listening.
Okay. Now, June is Men Health Month.
Yes.
Maybe one thing that you have in mind that you'd share with the men for them as a take home regarding their food and their mental health.
Okay.
Yeah.
So for the men in the audience, what I would like to share, and we talked about the issues of gut health and how it impacts our mental health. It's rare to see a man carrying a packet, like carrying food to work, like their own. They will always tend to either eat something that is available quickly, and it will be something probably meat, ugali, nyama, ugali. Hardly would they carry food from home. I think there is this, if you're carrying food, it's almost viewed as a feminine, not for men. So that makes the eating habits of many men to not be optimum. Even when I see my male colleagues or when I go to a place, when you look at their plate, hardly do they have vegetables, hardly do they eat fruits. So they encourage you to think about your food in a more diverse, eat more diverse foods, because we've talked about the issue about gut health and gut imbalance. It does affect you, and then obviously in the end it affects your mood. And remember what we said, we don't think about men must cry. So when we bottle up our emotions, as men bottle up their emotions, it comes out as rage. Now, not to men, Geraldine, just at my own personal level, I wrote an article last week as really looking at this suppression, this toxic, don't express your emotions, control women. I feel that men's mental health actually, when it's not being addressed well, it is playing a role in intimate partner violence, gender-based violence at femicide in our country. So, let's do better together.
Yes, sure. I like that. You've actually summarized the episode. But just before we wind up, I know we've talked about we need to have more voices out there. I need to invite KNDI, please.
And James, you said.
Yeah, and James. But listening to your last point, I'm like, the gender aspect.
Yeah. I do have a gender expert.
Yes, I think we need to have more conversation about the gender roles and norms and how it affects nutrition. Yes. Now, just one parting shot.
Okay.
Share with our audience one thing every listener can do just to make us more different on their plates.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what I can share as a takeaway for you, something simple you can do at home, is to always think, when it comes to your plate, to always think about diversity and variety. So eat a variety of foods, eat a variety of vegetables or fruits, even when it comes to staples. I know we love our ugali as Kenyans, but eat ndumas, cassavas, whole grains. Yeah, so that, however, having said that, these are general principles that apply to everybody.
Yeah.
But at your personal level, please personalize, have an individualized plan, and the best people that can guide you, as you said, is a licensed nutritionist.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Now, Emily, before you leave, please share with our audience your socials, how they can reach you.
Okay. Oh, thanks for that. So for me, you can reach me, Emily Mbelenga, on LinkedIn. And for my organization, Yashi Wellness Center on all social media platforms.
Good. Wow, that was a great conversation. And there's we celebrate Men's Health Month. To all audience, how are you supporting the men in your life?